So we will be recording the webinar today. The webinar recording will go on the Native Agricultural Financial Services website. That's www.nativeagfinance.org. We have a resource library there. So the recording is going to be free and accessible. We will also be sending the recording out via email to each one of you. And I assume that our presenter, if she says it's okay, I'll be able to send out the PowerPoint slides as well, along with a little bit of a recap and a direct link to that recording. So that will be happening potentially the end of the day tomorrow or early on Monday. I'll make sure to get everybody that email sent out to make sure that you have access. Feel free to share that information with anyone and everyone that you feel like it will benefit. That's what this webinar series is for, is to be able to benefit the producer themselves. Program that NAFS has right now is the Agricultural Farm Tax and Asset Protection Program. This program is to help a producer or a rancher through any financial needs that they may have. If you're looking to access USDA and FSA programs, financial readiness, supporting financial stress. If you're interested in that, feel free to scan the QR code. It'll take you to a short information sheet to collect that information, and somebody will be getting a hold of you. Personally, I have went through this program with some of my colleagues, and it was really beneficial for my branch that I live on here in Oklahoma. Today's presenter is Ms. Savannah Denver. She is the Beginning Farmer and Rancher Coordinator out of the state of Florida, and we are so excited to have Ms. Savannah here today. She's going to be talking to you about Mr. T. Cook. I'm not exactly sure your name, but if you can't hardly hear me, I think it will be on your end. I haven't heard any complaints on anybody else's end. So definitely let me know if you're still having some issues. We can talk about it in the chat. But at this point in time, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and turn it over to Ms. Savannah. We're really thankful for our partners at the Southern Risk Management Education Center for helping us create this webinar series, and really even more grateful that Savannah took the time out of her day to be here with us. So Savannah, I'll turn it over to you to do a little brief introduction and go right into your presentation.
All right, thank you so much. So again, my name is Savannah Danver, and I am the Outreach and Communications Coordinator, in addition to the Beginning Farm and Rancher Coordinator for long titles for Florida FSA. And I am very excited to talk a little bit more about generally what FSA is, and then also go into a few details about our loans, and then give you some links that will hopefully help you depending on where you are in your operation. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can see, and we'll get started. All right. So Farm Service Agency is one of 29 agencies at USDA. And I will say that many of you, if you are at the beginning stages of your operation, or maybe you haven't even started yet and you're just looking and you're interested, Farm Service Agency is probably going to be your first one that you work with. You will get kind of registered with us, and then from there, that opens up opportunities to work with the other agencies. And so for us, what we do offer is financial assistance. That can be to start a farm. You do have to meet eligibility, so it's not just you can start a farm with us. So there are eligibility requirements, which I'll go into later slides about our loans. We can help you expand your operation. So maybe you're a few years into it, you're looking to make it a little larger or purchase more land, things like that. Improve natural resources. And then our big one, especially in Florida, I'm sure other states have their own, natural disasters recovery. That's a really big one. We've been very fortunate for hurricanes, but we've had freezes this year and we've had huge droughts. As much of the United States has experienced that, in addition to maybe you've also experienced wildfires. So that's a huge section of our programs that we do offer to help farmers. So again, as I mentioned in the beginning, there's 29 different agencies. Depending on what your needs are and what you're looking for, USDA at large can help you get started or grow your farming operation through our services. We can go anywhere from farm loans to crop insurance, conservation programs, things like that. So definitely, Farm Service Agency is a great place to start, and then look into other agencies as well. So I'm going to go through 3 different categories that come up when you're looking at applying for loans or maybe even some of our programs. These 3 different categories are meant for individuals that may have had different, haven't had as many opportunities, or maybe they're just getting started or something like that. So there's a little confusion with these, and I will say as like a precursor that these groups, if you meet the eligibility for one of these 3 groups or more than one, that basically means that opens up additional benefits. So it could be waiving fees, reducing fees, things like that. So it's not necessarily like a program, because that can get a little bit confusing. It's more about you meet this eligibility requirement for this thing, and that might give you a benefit of like a reduced fee. So I just wanted to give that as a precursor. The National Institute of Food and, let's see if I get this right, National Institute of Food and Agriculture, NIFA, they have a beginning farm and rancher program that usually gets confused. That's meant for universities to start a program to help them. So sometimes when people Google things, they see that and they're like, oh, there's a beginning farm and rancher program. It's not exactly a program. It's just you may meet that category requirement to get some additional benefits. So I just wanted to make that known. So for FSA, beginning farmer is an individual or entity who has not operated a farm or ranch for more than 10 years. You have to meet loan eligibility requirements for the program for which you're applying. I apologize. We have these lights that like to go off. We like to conserve energy in our government building, so you may just be in the dark. So meets loan eligibility requirements for which the program you're applying. And then for farm ownership loans, you cannot own a farm greater than 30% of the average farm size in the county that you're applying for. So for socially disadvantaged and underserved, by law, SDA or socially disadvantaged, applicant is someone who has been part of a socially disadvantaged group whose members have been subject to racial, ethnic, or gender prejudice because of their identity, not because of individual qualities. Some of these groups are African American, American Indians, Alaskan Natives, Hispanic, Asian, Pacific Islander, and women. We also have another category, would be veteran farmers. So this one you have to have served in the armed force and have not operated a farm or ranch for more than 10 years in total, and or has obtained status as a veteran during the most recent 10-year period. And then for entities requesting to be considered as a veteran farmer rancher, at least 50% of that interest of that farm must be held by the veteran, basically. So talking about Farm Service Agency, we are divided into like 2 sections. We have farm loans, and then we have farm programs. Today, I'm going to go into farm loans mostly, but on the next slide, I'm going to get into a little bit more about our programs, just so that we can kind of get a broad overview. So for the types of programs, we have disaster assistance. So those are designated as assistance to be able to help with losses for crops, plants, trees, animals, livestock, all of that due to a natural disaster or event. So one really common one we see in Florida is usually after a hurricane, a lot of people are using the emergency conservation program, and it might be to help repair fences for their livestock. So those programs are financial assistance. You don't have to pay it back, but it's not really a grant. It's meant to help try to make you whole again. They don't always meet that, but that's the goal, is to try and get you back and running in your operation. We also have risk management. So that kind of helps you prepare for the unexpected. safety nets, which is financial assistance to provide payments when actual crop or commodity revenue declines below a specific price point or level. And then conservation. For conservation, this might be helping to address issues with like drinking water protections, reducing soil erosion, wildlife habitats, restoration of wetlands, or aiding farmers whose farm was damaged again by natural disasters. The conservation programs are usually in partnership with the Natural Resource and Conservation Service, or NRCS. We usually work with them on those things. So I'm not going to get in the weeds on that. I really wanted to get into loans to kind of help, generalize the loan, the options that you have, and maybe looking at some eligibility and some other factors. So the first thing I want to talk about is the difference in farm loans. You have direct loans, which is when FSA makes and services direct loans through progressive lending with funds from the U.S. Treasury. Okay. And then guaranteed is basically FSA is going to offer a loan guarantee for loans that are made by conventional lenders. When that happens, provides financing for both the farm ownership and operating loan purposes, with a maximum loan amount of $2,251,000. So FSA can guarantee those loans when you're working with conventional lenders up to 95%. So those are kind of the differences. So a direct loan basically is backed by the U.S. Treasury, guaranteed or backed by conventional loans or conventional lenders. And the different types of loans that we have ones that are available for farm ownership, farm operating loans, microloans, and emergency loans. We also have different servicing options, which is disaster set aside, and then primary loan servicing. I am going to check my notes. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything to tell you. One thing to note, if you are like, wow, there's a lot of options here, I'm not really sure where to go. We do have a loan assistance tool. I have to check my links to see if I didn't include it. I will grab it at the end of the presentation, but there is an assistance tool that you can click on, and then it goes through and asks you as a series of questions. So that way it kind of direct you towards what loan might be most applicable to you. So that kind of helps because, with government, we have lots of words and lots of things to sift through, and it can be a little overwhelming. So I think the tool is a really great way to be able to determine what your needs are. So this is an overview of our loan program. So basically this shows you where all the loan offices are. I realize the map is very small, but for any of you that are in Florida, I just wanted to show you this. I'm not sure how other states are designated, but for us, we only have, right now, I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe. Yeah, I think 6 loan offices. We are covering like multiple counties where if you walked into your local county office, there might be program staff there, but the loan staff might be located in a different office. So I just wanted to show you that. Make sure because other states might be going through the same thing. But I'll also include at the end of the presentation the office locator tool. And when you use that, it'll show you on there like this is where your program staff is located for your county. Here's where your loan staff is located. That way, just so you're aware, they're still open to virtual meetings, but they just may not be physically located in your county. Same thing here. This is just to show you, for anyone that's in Florida, this is kind of what this looks like. So this is kind of how we're broken down. So for FSA eligibility and supervised credit, FSA is considered the lender of first opportunity for those who may not otherwise qualify for ag credit elsewhere. FSA makes and services direct loans through supervised credit, as I mentioned before, with funds from the U.S. Treasury. FSA also offers the loan guarantees from those conventional lenders. So for both type of applicants, you have to be unable to obtain sufficient credit elsewhere to be able to qualify for one of those, have to be a citizen or legal resident alien, possesses legal capacity to incur the loan obligation, acceptable credit history, be the owner, operator, tenant, operator of a family farm, not delinquent on federal debt, has managerial abilities for the types of loans requested, and then not have caused the agency a loss by receiving debt forgiveness, and then not been convicted of planting, cultivating, growing, producing, harvesting, or storing a controlled substance within the last 5 years. So that is just generally, I realize that applying, you may say, okay, I've met all these things, but maybe that managerial ability might be different. There are different tiers to that. I don't remember if I have it on one of my slides, but the important part to note is that we do try and work with you, and the more you can kind of talk to us about your operation and stuff, we do our best, but these are the requirements. You do have to meet them. Let's see, did I miss anything bigger? Yeah, so your loan officer will work with you to create the best solution for you in terms of like payment schedules, accountability, loan terms, and distribution of funds. Loan staff can help answer some of your questions, but it's important to understand that ultimately it's still the borrower's responsibility to be responsible for the success of their operation. So I just wanted to note that. And then FSA, again, if you have any questions about the application, they can answer those questions. And then it's also important that when you're applying for loans and things, that you're being realistic and honest and as detailed as possible in the description of your personal and farm finances and your business plan and expenses. That helps make the best decisions with the information you provide, so that way it's the most accurate. So if you talk to some of the loan officers, they may, if you're first starting out, they may recommend starting smaller with your operation and then scaling up, just to have more of that history behind it as you grow your operation. So to talk about the direct loan, if you remember, the direct loan's backed by the U.S. Treasury. You have to develop a realistic farm business plan that projects the repayment ability for the loan and meet general eligibility criteria. You have to provide adequate collateral for that loan, agree to take borrower training courses, which I'll provide the link I have here at the end, because there's a great borrower training that I wanted to share that with everybody. You have to graduate to private sector credit when able to do so. You cannot exceed restrictions on years of eligibility, have applicable education, training, farm experience that provides reasonable prospects of success. So for example, like for farm ownership loans, you must have participated in the management of a farm or ranch for at least 3 years. Certain types of qualifications can reduce that 3 years experience. Sometimes that can include like different types of degrees you might hold, military experience, like having a farm mentor. That part always trips people up, but you can substitute some of that. You really just want to be open and honest with your loan staff, because they can sit there and kind of figure out how they can, work with you on that part. But FSA does look at that whole financial picture, which includes the gross farm income and expenses, the owner's cost of living or withdrawals, the owner operator income, that farm and personal debt payments. The bottom line basically are all the expenses and all the debts being paid for, and then is there enough cash left over? Collateral for a loan can vary, and it's dependent on the loan type. So that's what I was talking about with that collateral there. And a loan must be at least secured 100%, and they may even require 150% at some times. So the goal is basically to be able to help producers graduate from the direct loan to a commercial conventional lending. This is to ensure a successful loan, to be able to transition you over. And then also we're looking at, farm management experience. Oftentimes the borrower training, which is included, is required. So these are kind of some things you have to think about when you start applying for these loans. And that particular borrower training loan usually consists of I think they have a business plan section, they have a production financial management training. There's a lot of good stuff in there. As far as those years that I mentioned before, an applicant can apply for operating loans. So this example was about farm ownership loans, but for operating loans for up to 7 years, and up to 10 years for farm ownership loans. So you kind of have some like variability with how long you can have it.
Hey, Miss Savannah,
Yes,
we have somebody that's asking what is an acceptable credit score?
I think let me back up. I am not a loan officer, so I cannot actually comment on that. But also, I'm not sure how much that weighs in when you're looking at this because they take in so many factors to consider you for different loan types. So, if that's the case, I would definitely just reach out to your local loan staff and they may be able to answer that question of here's the range we typically look for.
Another question is, do you have to submit documentation uh, on how you could not obtain sufficient credit elsewhere?
Ooh, that's a good one. Um, I'm not sure. Can you put that off to the side and I will follow up? Do you have any way to follow up with everyone from this
Yes.
webinar? Okay, great. Let me follow up and I'll see if I can find more information on the credit score just to see if there is something in a handbook somewhere. But I can definitely follow up on that because I feel like the answer is yes, but I'm not sure what you have to provide. So I will find out and then and if there's any other questions I can't answer, I will find out and then be able to follow up with those.
The last one that we have right now is when are the borrower training courses required?
Um, I think it's good to take them anyways. I would say that they're a really great way to show what FSA looks for so that way you don't run into any hiccups with your application filling it out or what to provide. Um, I if you're like I've owned a farm for 10 years, I don't need to do it. I would have to find out when it's required. I think you might still have to do so in order to move your loan from the direct loan to a guaranteed loan, which is ultimately what we want to do. So, but I can find out if there's ever an instance when it's not required.
Okay, that's all we have for now. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I think we've talked about direct loans, so we're going to move on to the next one. So FSA lending basics, as I mentioned, FSA is a supervised credit, so the goal is to graduate to that commercial lender. We do consider like the 5 C's of credit, so character, capital, collateral, conditions, so depending on the market, and capacity to be able to repay. So know your credit score, as you know, we were talking about what's that minimum, and then your credit report, cash flow, and your farm finances. And you need to have a plan in place for success and repayment because ultimately we have to be able to basically show and prove that you're able to pay that back, right? Because that kind of makes sense. And I don't think I have it on the next slide, so I'll kind of just go over it. So when they're looking at that whole financial picture, they're also looking at gross farm income and expenses, farm or owner cost of living. I already mentioned this one. Okay, I think I already covered those in the last one. So basically, it's looking at the full financial picture. Even if you haven't started a farm yet, you still have to have a plan. So you still have to be able to show, like I said, like these are all my expenses, this is how much all this stuff's going to cost. And then at the end, based on like what I'm trying to sell, I still have money left over to be able to repay. So I think that's part of it too. Okay, this is just an overview of the farm loan information. I'm not going to read it all slide by slide. I'll just leave it up for a second. It gives you an idea of which types of different loans and then the maximum loan amount, the rates and terms that might be included, and then common uses for those. So just to give you an example, so we're looking at that direct farm ownership, maybe micro loan, that max is only 50,000. So that might be maybe you're looking at, a half an acre, or maybe you're looking at doing like a micro farm or something like that. Those rates are based on agency borrowing costs. And then that can be the terms can be up to 25 years. Common uses are to purchase a farm. construct buildings or other capital improvements to an existing farm, soil and water conservation, or like paying closing costs. So that just kind of gives you an example, but these are different options for your direct loans. And then here's some more options. Like I said, we have so many options. So these also include some of the emergency ones. These start getting into the guaranteed option. So remember, that's with that commercial lender. So it gives you an idea of what that might look like. So you can kind of see, where you're at with those as well. Give it a second. Okay. So what happens after you submit your direct loan application to FSA? So FSA will review your application to determine if all those required forms and documents have been submitted. They will notify you in writing within 7 days after receiving your application if any of those items are missing. FSA will provide, and this is a form, FSA 2304, allowing 15 days. So basically a notification that says within 7 days, they're going to get back to you to say you're missing these items, and then they'll allow you 15 days. After those 15 days, they'll send you another follow-up allowing an additional 15 days. So basically, they will notify you multiple times to get those missing items in as quickly as you can. They will notify you in writing within 7 days of receiving all forms and documents and letting you know your application is complete. So you will get lots of communication about if you're missing anything. We'll remind you you're missing something. You'll get a notification again when it's done, so you know you're good to go. And then you'll hear a final decision on your application within 60 days of receiving all those required forms and documents. So that gives you a general timeline of what happens after you submit a direct loan application. So these are the loan resources. Let me see if I can pull up. I'm working on 2 screens. I think this should work. Hopefully all those links are working. So that should provide you with these links here. The first one is just a general overview link of the farm loans. The second one is talking about beginning farmers and shows you some business plan options. The next one is talking about our guaranteed loans. The last one is the one I mentioned in the beginning with that borrower education. We do partner with Farm Raise, and that borrower education I think is still free right now. And you can go through it, and that's your borrower education. I'm personally trying to go through it right now just to see what you guys are experiencing when you do it. But it's supposed to be really great. Some states also partner with the land grant institution. So like for Florida, we have the University of Florida and FAMU. But the University of Florida does offer some courses that meet the eligibility for those borrower trainings. So I would recommend you reach out to your local beginning farmer and rancher coordinator to be able to find out if you have a university that might offer something that meets that requirement. So for us, they do like small farm schools where you can go and you meet this requirement for eligibility, but they also learn about like row crop production, or maybe they learn generals about, livestock production. So sometimes universities offer like a school like that where you can kind of learn more. So but this one is a free resource that's available, I think, all the time. I don't think they have courses or anything. I just think it's self-paced. So I think that's super helpful for a lot of people. So another thing I just want to say is like doing business online with us. This is a big thing we're moving to, is being able to have everything available through our portal. So when you kind of get started and you're working through it, maybe you already got loans and you're like, you know what, I just experienced a natural disaster. I'm already registered with FSA and I want to be able to apply for maybe, I don't know, maybe ECP did open up. Maybe the Emergency Conservation Program opened up after, a big storm. And so you can actually go and view, upload, download, e-sign documents. There's a lot of options here. This one, you can look at it through farmers.gov. I think it's going to redirect you to the login.gov. But if you go to farmers.gov/account, then you can at least learn the general information about it. But I would say that these are great for ad hoc programs, registering crop reporting. Like we're constantly expanding what's available through this portal. And I think it's a great option for some people, especially maybe your local office is really far from you. So I just want to do a little plug to say that, you may not need it right now, but in the future, if you want to work with us some more, that is a great option. So what happens on that first visit? So this is talking about whether it be maybe you already have a farm and you really want to look into programs, or maybe you are talking about loans. You can make an appointment through the office locator, which I'll drop in the chat in a minute. There's like a make an appointment click. And so we are doing Microsoft bookings now. So that makes it a little easier for you. You can do a virtual, you can do an in-person. But I do highly recommend you make appointments. It's a lot easier for our staff to manage their time and dedicate one-on-one time for you when you make an appointment. But they can talk to you they'll learn about your operation, understand what's going on. You can talk to them about the different programs, what you're interested in, what you might be able to be eligible for. But the other thing you might need or want to bring with you or have readily available would be proof of identity, driver's license, social security card. If you have an IRS number, like if you're already established as a business, proof of ownership, or if you have like a lease or something like that, deed for owned land. If you're a part of an entity, so if there's multiple people, identification status for that. And then any articles of the incorporation, trust, estate documents, partnership agreements, and then a good email address. So those are kind of some of the documents you may want to have prepared. If you're applying for a loan, I would say if you are looking at it, you can look at some of the loan documentation and start filling out those applications ahead of time. And that includes like, a business plan, expenses, things like that. That's a good thing to have as well. So I just want to do a little plug. We did just finish up the nomination period for county committees, but I did want to mention them because they are really important to help lead your local FSA. So county committees supervise the local office. They like to conduct outreach to farmers in that local area, and they do make critical decisions about FSA programs. These committee members are local farmers, ranchers, and landowners, which are elected by local producers. So it's basically by farmers for farmers. So these committees happen. If you're part of FSA or you have a farm with us, you'll get a bunch of information about it. And then people can be nominated. You can nominate yourself. And then you actually run through elections. People get elected. And this is all farmer to farmer. And then they get elected. And then you actually make local decisions about your FSA programs. And so it's really important that every time a nomination period or election comes up, it's crucial that eligible producers take part in that because they're the ones that are a direct link between the local farming community and USDA. So we just ended the nomination period. So if you have a local area that is going through an election cycle, then those ballots will be mailed to eligible voters in November. And then in December, all of those ballots are submitted and counted. And then January is when those new elected members take office. If you want more information about who's on your county committee or maybe who's, submitted nominations or anything like that, you can reach out to your local office and they'll be able to talk to you more about that. Okay. So these last two, this is one of the links I'm going to put in, and then I can also drop the Stay Connected one. We just upgraded our office locator. Again, we've got lots of new modernization happening here. So we have this really cool office locator that'll help you find. You can click on it, make an appointment. It shows you where your program staff's located, where your loan staff is located. I think they've made really good improvements with that. And then also, I say this at every outreach I do, it is super important that you subscribe to our newsletters. Those are going to always contain, you can select which ones you want. Maybe you want only your county, maybe you want your state newsletter, maybe you want one in a different state because maybe you're considering land over there. That's a really great one. So it's farmers.gov/subscribe because that's where we send out reminders about deadlines coming up, if we have any new programs coming out. Maybe we even include articles from Natural Resource Conservation. Sometimes we can include Risk Management Agency. So we try to include any local information, and sometimes we can even include, like, if universities are doing those small farm schools, you might see those in the newsletters. We try to give you information that's going to help you meet requirements or learn about programs, or maybe we're like, hey, check out this webinar that was recorded about taxes, because that's a whole nother animal when it comes to farms. So we try to give you relevant information at a local level. So I highly recommend that you subscribe. I just sent out our newsletter for the state that included a lot of new information about, when deadlines are, and we had some other program changes. So I think that that's really important. So I'm going to stop sharing so I can share these two links. But did we have any other questions?
Yeah, we have one question right now. Would the Battleground to Breaking Ground program through the Farmer Veteran Coalition in Texas A&M qualify someone?
I don't know. I am familiar with the Farmer Veteran Coalition. Since that's in Texas, you probably have to reach out to your local beginning farmer and rancher coordinator. I think that might be Josh Coleman. I can look that up real quick. Actually, I'll drop the link for how you can find your local beginning farmer and rancher coordinator, so that way everyone can have it. But it might depend on what all is covered. So a lot of times when we're working with different partners and like universities or nonprofits or things like that, they will submit their course material to FSA. Then we take it and compare it to what's required for the borrower training. And then if it meets the requirements, we can actually approve it to say, yes, this is considered a FSA borrower training. So that one might have it. I'm not familiar with it, but once my internet's very slow. I'm actually surprised we haven't frozen because the internet here is, I don't know what's happening. Let me see. So the answer, I guess, is not really an answer. You'll have to follow up to determine whether or not they have the borrower training done. So I'm going to drop this chat in the chat. Now I'm curious. I'm pretty sure it's Josh Coleman, but let me check. Nope, it's Floyd. I was incorrect. Let's find it. Okay, here is that link. And then let me drop the other two links. Do we have any other questions while I'm grabbing those?
Yeah, and at this point in time, yes, the recording will be available for review. It's going to come out via email. It should come to your email about Monday. But also it'll be located on the Native Ag Financial Services website. We have a resource library. So the recording for this webinar, along with every other Third Thursday webinar that we've done, is located on that resource library. Most states have chapter. Waco, Texas is just a headquarters, is what Mark says. So I'm thinking he's talking about potentially Farmer Veteran Coalition.
What was the question again?
Well, it just says that most states have a chapter. Waco, Texas is the headquarters. And so I think he's talking about Farmer Veteran Coalition. I'm going to allow everybody to talk at this point. So if you guys want to ask questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions at this point in time. While Miss Savannah is putting some more links in the chat, I will do my best to get all of these links in that email that I send out either late Friday or early Monday as well, so that everybody has that there.
Okay. I think I dropped the link so far. Yes, but if Mark was talking about the Veteran Farmer Coalition, yes, they do have chapters in there. I think all the states, honestly. I worked with them quite a few times on different outreach webinars and things. They're great to work with. for that particular program, I don't know if it meets the borrower training, but if you want to talk to Floyd with the link for the beginning farmer rancher, he should definitely know, or find someone in Texas that knows if it meets the borrower training requirements.
Hey, Savannah, this is Randa. I'm the one that asked the question. So I'm actually in Virginia, but I took the year-long program virtually. Would I talk to my rep in Virginia or the Texas folks?
Ah, I see. Okay. So since it is a Texas, like the home area is Texas for that program,
Okay.
I would reach out to the Texas beginning farm and just explain that and say, look, it was a virtual program, but it's housed in Texas. Did this meet the borrower FSA training? And that way you can find out.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. I'm also, just so you guys have it, because you might also want to reach out, because now that Josh is not on that one, the state outreach coordinator, if the beginning farm and rancher coordinator does not know, your FSA state outreach coordinator would know. So sometimes they're different people. So that's why I want to drop this in the chat as well. In Florida, it's been me for both, and that's kind of typical. But Texas is very big, so that might be why they have multiple people. But if you also want to navigate to the outreach coordinator for Texas, that's the link for that one. They would definitely know which partners have approved borrower training, because that's something that we know as a state outreach coordinator. Any other questions?
Not seeing anything as of now. While people are thinking last minute, I just wanted to take the time to really thank you for providing this opportunity to help educate everyone on our webinar series. I thought it was a really good webinar and some really tough questions.
Yeah,
Tough questions are good because then that means that they're really engaged in wanting to know some more information. And so I will get you those questions to you via email.
perfect.
If we can get some answers, I'll try to put that also in that webinar recap that I will send out early next week. So everybody will have those answers as well. At this point, I will stop recording. So if that makes anyone feel more